And there's one species we haven't even touched on yet. And that's us. One of the things that I love about the Park Service, that drew me into wanting to work for the Park Service, is that not only do we preserve these special places, these natural and cultural resources, but we don't put a fence around them, we don't keep you out. We allow you to come visit them. We invite you to come visit them. We build trails. We put out rangers who can take you on a swamp walk to go explore just what makes this place so special, to go learn about that watershed up close and personal. Maybe hiking's not your style? You can go out in a kayak. Give your arms a little workout. One of the great things about Big Cypress being a preserve is that you can even go out on an ATV or an off-road vehicle. Whatever you need to do, just get yourself out there and enjoy it. Now, who in here has ever been out and explored a little bit at Big Cypress? A few of us? Yeah, pretty good amount today, and it's always great to see. But what if you're one of those people who has no interest in getting your feet wet, or working those arms, or hopping on a machine that's loud and muddy and dirty? Why do you even care about all that space out there? Well, according to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, in 2007, 1.4 million visitors came right here to Collier County. It's estimated that they spent about $791 million, and that increased throughout the economy for an economic impact of over $1 billion. Now, we all know that no visit to South Florida would be complete without going to Big Cypress or to Everglades to see your alligator, without going to the beach to play in the waves and having some fresh seafood right from the Gulf. Now, if you don't care about those tourists, don't care if they have any fun, consider the fact that the taxes that those tourists pay saves you, the resident, about $546 a year. Now, I can do a lot with $546, so this sure matters to me. And we've been talking about, in our water cycle, we've talked about the oceans and the estuaries, we've talked about surface water in the swamps. We talked about how it evaporates during that dry season and that water level goes down. We talked about how it falls as rain. Fingers crossed, we get plenty of it during the wet season down here. But there's one section we haven't touched on yet. That's this one right down here, this groundwater. Do we have groundwater out there in Big Cypress? Yeah. What's it called when we have water under the ground? An aquifer, exactly. For those of you who don't know too much about it, sometimes when you get rocks like that limestone that we have, very, very porous, full of holes, looks something like a sponge, it also acts something like a sponge. Water can get down into those holes and be stored. Now here it is. How does the water get down there? Rain, exactly. It can percolate very slowly just through the surface land, or it might find its way out into a sinkhole. This is Deep Lake. A huge sinkhole right here in Big Cypress. That lake is almost 100 feet deep. Not something you expect to just stumble upon out there in the swamp. Sometimes, if there's enough water flowing into that aquifer and it's full enough, it forces pressure. It might force some of that other water out. That's where we get natural springs. Florida itself is known for having natural springs throughout the state. Now, do we have an aquifer right below us here? Absolutely. The entire state of Florida is underlain by aquifers. Multiple aquifers, in fact. The lowest, or at least right here, the lowest one is the Floridan aquifer. But here we really can't use it. It's full of salt water. Up here, where it's blue on this state map, they're getting their water from that one. But it's not really of much use to us. The one that you can see here, where we are, is green. So that's the surficial aquifer system. Surficial. At or below the surface. Very, very close to the surface of our Earth here. I want to talk for a minute. What's so great about having our very own aquifer right here? We have a water supply. Our water supply, exactly. And what I'm comparing it to, this is a picture, this is the aquifer, this is the Floridan aquifer. It's not the one we're getting our water from.
That's an amazing photograph.
Oh, it's not the one that we're getting our water from here. But it is an example of an aquifer, that underground water storage. This is a picture of a reservoir out west, Blue Mesa Reservoir, as well as the dam that was built to create that reservoir. When you compare these two photos, what benefits do you see in having an aquifer rather than a reservoir? They both store water, but why might we prefer an aquifer?
It's natural.
It's natural, exactly. It's natural, so we didn't have to build it. How much do you think that big old dam right there cost to build? It's over 370 feet tall. There's over 3 million cubic feet of material making up the Blue Mesa Dam. That thing was not cheap. An aquifer here, that's free. It's natural. It's stored in the rock. It's our own little sponge. Anything else you can think of?
Maybe it's cleaner.
It's cleaner. Exactly. What's going to happen if I have muddy water full of rocks and little chunks of dirt and sticks and I pour it on the top of this sponge? What's going to come out the bottom? Dirty. Clean. It might still be brown because it's picked up, you know, some things from that, but we're not going to get rocks, we're not going to get sticks, we're not going to get any large contaminants coming through. That rock acts like a natural filtration system. Now, of course, this golden coin of ours here does have a flip side. When you look at these two, can you think of any downfalls to having an aquifer? Or any maybe special precautions we need to take?
How to get the water out.
How to get the water out, yep. That's going to cost us a little bit of money, but they have to have ways to get the water out over here as well. What if we decide we need more storage space? Can we just grow our aquifer? No. What you see is what you get. If we decide that that reservoir needs to be a little bit bigger, we'll just build that dam a few feet higher, and that's going to create a massive amount of more storage. You can't do that with your aquifer. And now let's see, what if we really take a lot of water out of this reservoir and we really dry it down? What's going to happen?
Muddy, ugly on the sides. And
yeah, it's going to be muddy and ugly, but is it going to ruin it? You just said it'll fill up. It'll take a long time, but it will fill up. Water's going to continue to flow into it, because that's what it does. Water flows into low spots. What happens if we take too much water out of this aquifer here? It's empty. Now, once again, water's going to fill it, but it's going to be the water that surrounds that aquifer. And what surrounds us here in South Florida? Salt water. Exactly. If I squeeze this sponge too dry and then set it down and it's surrounded by salt water, you bet it is going to soak that stuff right up. Now, what about other things it might absorb if we take it down too low? Chemicals, pollutants. This is a nice clean sponge, but I bet your sponge at home doesn't look like this. I know that the one over in quarter 16 looks a little bit more like this. And no matter how many times I run this through the dishwasher, do you want to drink out of it? No. We all know how dirty a sponge can get, how it smells. We don't want anything to do with that. And it's very, very hard to get it back to the way it started. Almost impossible. We've been given a great gift, having an aquifer right underneath us here to pull fresh, clean water out of. But we have such an amazing responsibility to take care of it. Now, those people who came together in the 1960s to win the battle for Big Cypress National Preserve, the hunters, the recreationists, the environmentalists, they gave us this gift, 729,000 acres of aquifer recharge area. Clean area that's not going to have roads built over, it's not going to have concrete or power plants built, where that water can continue to percolate and to fill. And whether you care about plants or animals, or recreation, or even just the value of knowing that it's there and that tourists can go there, having clean water to drink is a thirst that you cannot deny. What are some things that we can do in our own lives to help conserve this precious resource that we've been given?
People at home using water.
People at home using water. What can we do to help save water at home?
What was the simple one you learned when you were a kid? Turn the faucet off when you're brushing your teeth.
When you're brushing your teeth, turn the water faucet off.
Wash your clothes with cooler water.
Right. Take shorter showers.
Take shorter showers.
Plant native plants.
Absolutely, plant natives. So you're not out there with the water hose every day. Anything else?
Turn off those sprinklers.
Turn off their sprinklers. Another place where having those natives could really help us out. So all these changes, they're great things to do, but you're only going to save a gallon here, a gallon there. Is it really going to make a big difference?
Yeah, for each of us.
I want to share a story with you. In the late 1890s, Salvation Army Captain Joseph McPhee was living in San Francisco, and he had an idea that he wanted to help out the needy people of San Francisco on Christmas Day. But how do you raise enough money to do that? His idea was to feed them a good home-cooked meal. But he was just one man. He could never afford to feed all the needy people in San Francisco. So he thought about this. He labored on this until he finally remembered back to his days when he was a sailor in Europe. And whenever they would come into a port and all those sailors would get off the ship, there was always a big pot sitting on the dock. It was called the Simpsons pot. And as the sailors walked by, they would, let's see what I can find in here. Keys. Here's some change. They would toss a coin in as they walked in. And those coins would be handed out to the needy people of that harbor city. So, Captain McPhee did the same thing there in San Francisco. He set out a pot right there at the ferry landing, and next to it he put a handwritten sign that said, "Keep the pot boiling." And it didn't take long before he had filled that pot to overflowing with change. Quarters, nickels, dimes. And that very first year, he was able to feed 1,000 needy people in San Francisco. Now, who's seen one of these pots outside Walmart or outside the mall? And maybe you contributed, maybe you didn't. Maybe you agree with the Salvation Army, maybe you don't. But you can't argue with the good of feeding 4.5 million people during the holiday season, which is what they do now. 4.5 million people are fed because of your small change. Small change makes a difference. Turning off that water when you brush your teeth. Using cold water in the washing machine. Planting natives. Even though it's a few gallons here, a few gallons there, over time, it can really add up. When you get home tonight, will you remember when you take a shower, cook your supper, or even just brush your teeth, will you remember how your small change can truly make a difference? I know that I will. Cheers.